The subject this morning is in business with God. Now this subject might be just as well in business for God, but I have purposely used with rather than for, because the former denotes a closer relationship, such as a partnership or one with God. When we work for God, there is the thought of employer and employee. There is an idea of separateness. But when we are in partnership, the idea of separateness is entirely missing. We feel one with God. And we should feel this bond with God, for do not the Scriptures say that we are made in His image, and that we are really children of God. In my younger days, politicians and politics crossed my path, for my brother was a member of the General Court of Massachusetts. I remember distinctly the following incident about a very successful politician who later became governor of Massachusetts. When this successful politician was asked the reason for his success, he replied as follows: "Politics is a business, and that's my business." And therefore we, in self-realization, should adopt a similar attitude and say that finding God or attaining God communion through self-realization is a business, and that's our business. For the first and greatest commandment says that we shall love the Lord our God with all our mind, with all our soul, and with all our strength. And how can we do this unless we know God? Unless we are one with Him. And so finding God or attaining God communion through self-realization should be our business. To make a success of any business, we must hold to the thought of success of that business, and we must hold that foremost in our mind. We really must first want to succeed, and then, secondly, we must work for it. We must want success as the drowning man wants to be saved, as the glutton craves for food, and we must want success as the miser delights in hoarding money, and as the lover wants the beloved. We should want success in that degree, and we will have to work for that success by using our will until success comes. That is what is meant by using the will, to keep everlastingly at it, to set in motion the forces, both mental, physical, and spiritual, necessary to bring about success, and then to keep these forces in motion until success is realized. We must everlastingly keep at it until the desired end is achieved. If success in business depends on following the above laws, surely in finding God, which is the science of all sciences, we must do likewise. And so, while striving toward union with God, self-realization, there should be an unquenchable desire which will not be stilled, an unquenchable desire to know God, and this should be followed by an adamant effort until God consciousness is realized. There are fundamental business principles in making a success of business and also of making a success of God contact. In the business world, we hear such expressions as time and 1/2 for overtime, double time for Sundays and holidays. Now, there is a conventional number of hours for work in a week, and when we expend more effort and work longer hours, we receive special remuneration. When we sacrifice still further and work on special days, holidays, while others are enjoying and celebrating, we, by making this special sacrifice, receive double pay, and this is as it should be. For fundamentally, it simply means that we are giving more effort, and for that extra effort, we receive a greater reward, more treasure. And so let us apply these business principles in attaining God communion through self-realization. First, we give ordinary effort toward spiritual realization through the practice of proper techniques of concentration and meditation, which have been given by the Master and which are found in Self-Realization Fellowship. By doing this, we gain certain results. Let me give you a particular instance. We hear the great Om sound, the sound of the great cosmic motor, or the Amen, which is the faithful witness, the beginning of the creation of God. This is spoken of in the Bible. This is the sound of the running of the cosmic motor. By giving ordinary effort, we hear this great cosmic sound. Because all motors give off a sound when they are in operation. And so this cosmic motor, which has created and sustains the universe, gives off a sound which can be heard by practicing the proper techniques of meditation. At first we hear this sound intermittently. Gradually, it is audible whenever we are quiet. And finally, we are able to hear the comforting celestial vibration under all conditions, whenever we will. And this is very satisfying, for in that vibration is the divine consciousness of God. But instead of being satisfied with the results of ordinary efforts to commune with God, such as just hearing the sound, the cosmic sound, even though we hear it at will, if we make the sacrifice of greater effort, then we receive the treasure of overtime. And what is that treasure? We become one with the Om vibration, one with the cosmic vibration. And as that vibration, the Holy Ghost, with its inherent Christ consciousness, comprises all creation, permeates all creation, so our consciousness, being one with the holy vibration, likewise becomes expanded throughout all creation. And so you can see, by this giving of extra time, Sundays and holidays, in your leisure time, pays wonderful dividends of being one with the presence of God throughout all creation. If we go deeper, we can even pass beyond the creation of the holy vibration into the stillness of cosmic consciousness. We can do this because we have followed the fundamental business principle of giving extra time, and for that extra time we receive a greater reward. We can apply the same business principles to the attainment of God communion through the realization of His other aspects found in the holy vibration, as the eternal light, and finally, perhaps the greatest, the omnipresent peace and bliss of divine love. By making ordinary effort through the proper methods of self-realization, we can see this astral light, this light beyond the atoms, this light from which all things have come. By regularly following the practices with perseverance in the effort, it becomes an ever-present, visible guide. Just as we read in the Bible, the children of Israel were guided by a cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. This simply means that they were one with the light of God, the spiritual light, the light of the holy vibration, the Holy Ghost, and were guided by the divine consciousness in that light. If, however, we are not content in just seeing the light of God, the light of the spiritual eye, if we are not content with this and then make further sacrifices, greater effort, we are able to penetrate the light, to pass through it, and thereby see the land of the fourth dimension, heaven, where God and His angels dwell. In other words, by greater effort, frontal vision increases, and we can see in front, behind, above, beneath, through the all-seeing power of God, or the single eye of intuition. And so going on with the realization of the aspect of the holy vibration as the peace and bliss of divine love, we can by ordinary effort be satisfied with the constant presence of His peace in every phase of this life, or we can, by making the extra effort, receive the reward of the realization of positive bliss, not just peace of mind, but the positive bliss of ecstasy. Now, in ecstasy, we not only just escape from worries and an uncontrolled mind, where the thought processes run hither and yon. We not only escape that, but we receive that positive bliss, that cosmic peace, by being one with divine love. In ecstasy, therefore, in a complete expansion of consciousness into the divine love of God, we are one with the joy of the Master of the universe, and the peace that passeth all understanding is our reward. Now let us pass on a little further To this one point which I want to make at this time, it is this. We should always remember that no matter what phase of the holy vibration we contact, as the sound, the light, or the divine consciousness and love in that holy vibration, remember, that is the eternal aspect of God within us. And if we merge in that, it will not pass away like ordinary consciousness, outward consciousness, and things of the intellect pass away. It will not pass away because that is eternal. That is the divine consciousness of God. Now, here is one point, and perhaps the greatest point in the lesson this morning. Making ourselves a necessity to God. In our business with God, we should remember an illustration of the case of the especially ambitious employee. He immediately gives overtime in his work. He becomes enthused and interested and receives the extra pay thereof. So great is his enthusiasm that he begins to give attention to the problems of his work after hours. He takes work home and completes his labors there. He spends long hours into the night. In fact, he becomes so familiar and so well versed in the business that he becomes invaluable, and it is necessary for the firm to take him in as a partner. And so we should remember this in our search for God. It is just the same with self-realization, or the business of realizing our oneness with God. We see and perceive that He is behind our every action. We work with a consciousness only of Him. We work only toward God. We make ourselves so necessary to God that He takes us into partnership with Him, just like the enthusiastic employee was taken in partnership in his business. We are necessary to Him for one reason, and it is this: we should never forget it. There is one thing that we have that God does not have, and He has got to have it to make Himself complete. He has not our love. For God has given man free choice and free will to accept or reject Him. He wants our love. He knows He must have our love to be satisfied. And then when He is sure that we really want Him, He finally removes the idea of separation between Himself and us and truly takes us into business with Him. He even takes us along as He runs this huge drama of life. Many years ago, during my early association with Paramahamsa Yogananda, the founder of Self-Realization Fellowship, he used the following illustration, which deeply impressed me, because it applied to the important subject at hand in business with God. He pointed out that if you visit a store to make purchases, you are limited by many things, such as your pocketbook, the inclination of the clerk to search out your needs, as to the kind and quality of goods, and many other conditions. But he went on to say, if you make friends with the storekeeper or owner, he can satisfy all your needs. He can even give you everything in the store if he so desires. And then he said, So make friends with the storekeeper of the universe. He is the maker and sustainer of all things. He can supply your every need. And so finally, therefore, let us give greater effort to know God through the proper methods of meditation and Kriya Yoga. It pays extra dividends of self-realization and God communion. These dividends are not imaginary, but are most real and tangible. We must be in business not only for God, but with God. For God means that we are following the path of renunciation. We are working for God, but there is the idea of separation there. But when we say we are in business with God, this means following the path of yoga by action. Yoga means union. Therefore, simply being one with God by the proper action. And with this, instead of there being an idea of separation, there is the idea of oneness. Oneness in the divine love of God. Gandhi said, "The law of love is a far greater science than any modern science." When God's divine love steps in, and all your troubles are easily satisfied, because divine love is the force that created all things, sustains all things, and can adjust all things. In the Bible, Revelation 3rd chapter, 21st verse, we read as follows: "To him that overcometh will I grant to sit down with me in my throne, just as I am set down, just as I overcame and am set down with my Father in his throne." And so let us be in business not only for God, but let us be in business with God by being one with him through self-realization, following the proper techniques given by the Master, one who knows God and is one with God. Be in business with God.